Our Bible word is Luke 21, verse 36. Watch therefore, and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. So this is now Luke's version of Jesus' eschatological discourse. In other words, his discourse about the future events, or events of the end. And this is based on Mark 13. Matthew has his own version of that in Matthew 24. But yeah, it's all Jesus came to Jerusalem, and then as they were leaving the temple, his disciples made remark of how fantastic the temple is, because it was a spectacular temple complex for its time. And then Jesus responds to them, and he says, these things which you see, in other words, all these the temple and all its decoration, its buildings, etc., the days will come in which not one stone shall be left upon another that shall not be thrown down. So Jesus here predicted the destruction of the temple. And so the disciples ask him, when will this happen, and what will be the sign, or that these things will come to pass, etc. So the way it's structured is now Jesus explains to them events that will happen. And specifically, if we look at our entire pericope or textual unit, that's Luke 21 verses 5 to 38, and it addresses the coming end, the destruction of the temple, also redemption, that's the coming of the Son of Man, and also Jesus' exhortation to readiness, for them to be ready for this. So specifically, it's about the coming destruction of the temple that Jesus predicts, and then that the events that will precede the destruction. That is from verses 7 to 19. There Jesus speaks of false messiahs that will appear. There will be wars, there will be heavenly signs, there will be persecution of the Christians, and also there will be this conflict within the family, where people will hand each other over, etc. These will be the events that will precede the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. Then there's also the siege and destruction of Jerusalem. That's in verses 20 to 24. And that actually happened in the year 70 AD. That's when the Roman general Titus, he came with his troops, and for over several weeks they slowly and methodically conquered Jerusalem, and eventually they also burned and destroyed the temple. And then Jesus speaks of the coming of the Son of Man. And specifically, I want to draw attention to verses 25 to 26. Jesus says there, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Because that is when the coming of the Son of Man will take place. If we read in verse 27, then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. We must also understand that Mark, from which this is ultimately derived, wrote from the perspective that the end was imminent. These Christians expected, because there's this war with Rome, between the Jews and the Romans, and there's this destruction of the temple. The destruction of the temple was a big thing. It was a major event. So they understood it, that this will actually, it's the time of Jesus is coming, is imminent. It will happen any moment now because of this cataclysmic event of the temple's destruction. So we must understand that this is the perspective from which the gospel authors were also writing. But yeah, Jesus speaks of the coming of the Son of Man, and also these events that I've read there in verses 25 to 26. So this is a prophetic discourse that Jesus gave. But now he changes over to this pastoral exhortation, where he exhorts or he encourages followers to be faithful, to be vigilant. And there are these two pericopes we must look at together. That is the parable of the fig tree, and also that exhortation to watch. If you go to the parable of the fig tree, remember this is verses 25. It says there, and there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, etc. And men's hearts failing them from fear and expectation of those things which are coming on the earth, etc. Jesus now uses the parable of the fig tree to explain to them, if you see these things happening, you know the coming of the Son of Humanity is at hand. So now he uses the parable of the fig tree. He says, look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they are already budding, you see and know for yourselves that summer is now near. So a fig tree loses its leaves in winter, like most trees. And of course, springtime, there's this budding of leaves that come out. So you recognize by that, okay, summer's on its way, spring has arrived. Then Jesus says, so you also, when you see these things happening, in other words, those things that you read from verses 25 to 26, know that the kingdom of God is near. So, then of course, then there's also this expression of this generation. It will come to pass in this generation. But as I said, understand Mark 13 and yet Luke 21 is written from the perspective of these Christians. They thought this is going to happen now, imminent, because of this war that happened with Rome or did happen with Rome. For Luke, this was already a past event because he wrote in the 70s or 80s. And now Jesus gives this exhortation to watch. That's verses 34 to 36. So like the fig tree, it buds. You can see summer is coming. In a similar way, Jesus says, if you see those signs, know, the coming of the Son of Man's at hand. So the thing here is perception. If you see some things happening, then you will know the coming of Jesus is at hand. And it leads to vigilance. If you read there from verse 34, but take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. In other words, it will be sudden. It will be unexpected. Don't live your life as if it's life as usual, especially engaging in those sinful activities that is also listed there. And now we come to our Bible verse. Watch therefore, and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. What is all these things that will come to pass within the context of Luke? Again, it refers to those things mentioned in verses 25 to 26. All those things that will happen and people become worried and anxious and whatever. So this is Jesus encouraging or exhorting his followers, be vigilant, be watchful, be perceptive. If you see these things happening, you know that the coming of the Son of Man is at hand. Be vigilant, be awake. It's not just life as usual. Live expectantly, be awake. That's the Christian life that we are called towards.